Hello.
Hi. Um, yeah, so my name is Zoe, and I'm here on the Micro Solidarity podcast to talk with Rosa about our experience at Borderland together. We were both last year and the year before that kind of co creating around placement, which is the part of this event where people can place their own camps and dreams. And basically, Borderland is this big burner event, like a co-created, not festival. They don't like to be called a festival. That is based on the 10 principles, 11 principles. Maybe there's a 12th principle somewhere there if you look very closely. And yeah, so we just wanted to check out a little bit on what we were working on together and so on. But also, can you start maybe like just introduce yourself and your background and so on?
Yeah, sounds good. Hey, nice to be on this podcast. My name is Rosa, and last year we worked very closely, intensively for definitely 6 months in preparation of this not festival that you buy a membership for, not a ticket. Very important distinctions. And I think we came from different angles, and mine was that I'm very interested in like city planning and mostly the kind of like citizen engagement in city planning. And that's been like a red thread throughout like studies and like research. And that kind of brought me to like working with this specifically at the Borderland. And what I understood was that you came from a different like maybe point of origin, but also the similar kind of interest of decentralization and in this world then like the membership or members being engaged and being deciding over their own like faith at the Borderland.
Yeah. Yeah, my personal journey with Borderland was very like that the first year I was there was 2019. It was still in like Hedeland in Denmark. And it was just I had no idea, like I didn't understand anything, like how anything works, where could I go, what could I do. I was just like thrown into like a big huge party basically with a lot of rules and subcultures and I don't know whatever. And yeah, then trying to figure this out and coming back and somehow like just being like a week without money, like there's no actual exchange, like everything's gifted. That was like I didn't know I needed that. That was the kind of something that like stuck with me like for like months still afterwards, where it was like, wow, that's so relaxing, you know. And then I just came back like trying to understand it every time a little bit more and more. And like what brought me to placement was actually like a problem I like saw firsthand because I was in a camp that got into a fight with another camp about their placement and the sound that they had. So they were like kind of like, and this was like egos clashing and people getting really like riled up. And I was just like, why? Like, you're here, you have this week together. Like, why does why do you have to be close to each other? Like, can you like put your camps like somewhere else that you don't have if you have this like strong feelings? And I was like, okay, there has to be a better way. And then I just got curious and I joined. Basically, that's when we met. When I joined the placement team when Victor was lead, like 2 years ago, right? Yeah, yeah, and
Yes, and
it
he,
was
he
yeah. Go ahead.
approached he approached the placement very much. So Borderland describes itself as between realities and dreams. And then the part that organizes everything is called realities, and basically everyone else dreams. Um, but some people like to include or shift towards the middle of this scale and include more of the dreams in realities. And he approached it very much as like, this is a reality. Our main task is to deliver a fire roadmap to the authorities. And so there are fire roads that are according to like the fire regulation. And I got inspired by a friend and tried to include some urban planning principles into the placement. And that would involve me creating a plaza where people have the idea of this is a destination and we are co-creating something together that has like a similar vision and a similar sound levels or like daytime or nighttime activities. And he was like, I challenged him quite a bit on, and I think in the end, like he got a bit like curious and excited about it. And so we got the first plaza, and then when he was gone, there was this opportunity for us to include more of these like urban planning ideas into the placement process. And then we actually went kind of nuts and completely restructured the placement process.
Yeah. And just for those who don't know all the Borderland lingo, kind of like a reality and a dream. So a reality is something that needs to happen in order for the event to happen, right? So there needs to be like electricity, if people want to listen to music, and there needs to be water, and there needs to be fire roads, and so on. And then dreams are kind of like all the different offerings and imaginations that people bring with them to the event. That's like a co-created event, so like you don't know what's going to happen there because everybody's just making the program together. There's no main stage, there's no like kind of no even centralized main organizers that can go to and complain. I mean, you can try and do that, but it's very funny to find who's in
And
charge.
no booked artists, no
Yeah.
timeline or schedule. Yeah. But of course there needs to be like some kind of talk with the authorities or like a gate or like these kind of things are called realities.
Yeah. And then people bring a lot this kind of LARPing concept, no? Like the idea of like, okay, where you're going into a role that's bigger than life, and then creating these dreams around those personalities, those ideas, those things. But then the realities, like you said, right? They're like more, people just basically LARP an office. Like how is it to have like long Zoom meetings and like try to do things efficiently and so on. But then like to bring in more creativity and more like personality into the process is something that we kind of, you and I kind of like found each other around to kind of that was the beginning in a way of where I felt like this strong kind of connection. It was so much fun to work with you, when we were like creating all this like little like naming the neighborhoods and coming up with neighborhoods and coming up with ways how to make this more the map a bit more like self-explanatory in a way, that like different areas are called in a way that you can like locate them in the place so that there's not like anyway.
Yes, we started to also think a lot more about the process and like the experience of being each other's neighbors and what that means. And why would people get to know each other when they arrive at the land and realized, wow, you play drum and bass and we have like a singing circle. Like that's not a good match. So we set up this process that would start way ahead of the event for people to align these things and find each other and like create synergies and more of these buzzwords, but basically start to talk to each other to realize, are we going to be a good fit or should we maybe be like on opposite ends of the in the area?
Yeah, that was the pre-placement.
Mm.
Yeah, that was the transition from the first year that we were together in placement. Like And then last year, 2025, when we actually like were co-leads together with Adam, you and I, yeah. And then we implemented the pre-placement system, which is just basically the idea that we let people sign up for like a 6-week process where they can like find each other. And it's like not, because before that it was always this first come first serve thing, more or less. Like you have a big map and then people like find the best location and they kind of like try to squat it and defend it against others. And so like we invited people voluntarily to come in and sign up and have this like 6-week process together where you kind of like come up with like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, we could like have camps, like you said, like similar directions or needs. And that's kind of like what then causes people to find a place together, right? So
Yeah.
there's more like this connection between different groups and different interests. Yeah.
Yeah, people become very helpful and very collaborative, and they come up with new ideas. And once they start to think about like an area together, they create some kind of like a shared vision where my square meters are not competing with your square meters. So it reaches kind of like beyond and above the like individual needs and towards more like a collective end goal. And that's, I think, like the process that we try to design and carry out and facilitate and help people like along the way. And it started to become really fun when people actually got it, when they realized, oh, this is what you're doing. Let's do this. Like, thank you. Now we can do it on our own, and to not need us like to help, to hold hands and but realize, oh, we are put together in this process, so we can talk and we don't need you to be like facilitating this like so closely.
Yeah.
That is like, I think maybe that's like the success of it, like when you realize you've done a good job.
Yeah. And that also like brings me to something what you said, where like a little bit is this initial resistance, like when we brought this idea, like the first time we started talking about kind of going away of like, oh, we're not doing just fire rods, but we're doing like other things as well, like help people make better decisions about placement, where they place, how they place, like expanding our like mandate a little bit. And then the second year when we did pre-placement, like also there was a lot of resistance at the beginning because like people just did not necessarily understand our vision, or they kind of like they had some preconceptions about why it wouldn't work and so on. Like talk about that, like how was it like, or how do you feel in general, like kind of this way of like you're organizing something in a decentralized way, so there's a lot of like power is being shared around in different ways, so there's advice process and there's other ways you can make decisions in groups there, yeah. But then there's often like a certain like high school dynamic almost, no, like where people like kind of get into their emotion and they get like block certain things that you don't understand, or they're like maybe too new, that there's like this gut reaction to that. You've seen that as well, right? Yeah. Do you want to talk about
Yeah.
that a little bit? Yeah.
um
How was it for you, and how have you dealt with that? Like
I mean, I realized when I was very involved in co-creating this plaza where we had, I think, 12 camps that would all face each other in a circle. And so that became like a meeting point, but it became a destination and became something that gave identity to the area. And it also became some kind of like yeah, like this shared goal or vision or something. And since since Victor was then the placement lead and wasn't giving a lot of space for it, I tried to organize it kind of like in a parallel system. And that included maps, and I needed their very detailed kind of map of their camp, like where is your kitchen going to be and how many square meters and what and where. And when we arrived at the land, it turns out it wasn't aligning with the map and with the land, with the physical geography. But some people had come very early and they had already stabilized their caravans, and this becomes like very like detailed and like a very concrete example, but it illustrates so well that they they were so fixated on like this is what we have and we don't want to move, and the other people just need to solve this. Um, and when I started to talk about like, but we're in this process together and we are co-creating this plaza together, and realized that you could have been on your own and you wouldn't have known any of your neighbors. Like, what do you think the value is that we are doing this together? And slowly they started to soften up and realize, no, but of course, it doesn't have to be like a straight line. If we took a little bit of their square meters in one spot, they can like come a little bit towards in the other spot. It does there doesn't need to be a straight line. And this straight line became like very, for me, very like illustrative of the the loosening that can happen if we start to talk about like we're co-creating this together and we will be sharing, we'll be neighbors for like a week. Why do we need to keep this straight line? It's quite unnecessary. And then like he started to help out his neighbor, and suddenly a lot was possible. That was like, I think, a really nice way of seeing how it can work.
Nice. And there's also like so much when like I've seen this also during pre-placement a lot, kind of like because when you like are a camp lead or like you have a big project or a big dream with Borderland, this totally like consumes you. You don't really have that much more resources to think about what do other people, because it's like your trailer is late and you need to plan this and schedule this, and this person had a meltdown and you need to like do all these other things. So then like coming and thinking like, okay, what of our neighbors? I don't care. I just want to have zero like impact with my neighbors, and just then that's the point where these like sometimes nerves can go up, because you're just like, okay, I don't want to deal with this right now, but like actually like making it the central point, right? That we like prioritize this, like who's your neighbor, who do you want to be your neighbor, like choose your neighbor and then choose the location together, right? And just like try to compete for real estate, like who has the best, with the best sunshine and the best music and the best view, and no, like
No.
who do you want to co-create? And even if it's small things, you can like just if you like have friendly people around you, you can borrow tools, you can like
Yeah.
even like have the events in a way that they like support each other, they're not in conflict with each other, and yeah, it's just much more lively in a way. Yeah, it's nice to see the changes then, because that's really cool about working in these realities for Borderland. You kind of like make a lot of effort and you gift it, to the community, and then you see the results and
Yeah.
you're like, wow,
Yes.
this
Yeah.
actually worked.
Yeah. Yeah. But also that people start to talk so long in advance that once they meet, they are not strangers anymore. And this idea of like, shit, I don't want to deal with my neighbor because I just need to, they have started to look forward to meet each other finally in real life. And already talked about, you know, you can transport this for me, or I can use these tools, or we can offer food and water. And having these like exchanges and like these things already set up before, I realized that that happened like among some camps that I was part of. Was kind of trying to recreate the hacks, and it didn't really work, but not in a physical sense, but in the connection between camps was established. So I did feel there was like more connection between camps in like certain areas than there was like before. Yeah.
There were also more plazas like last year than the year before, right? Like because the year before, like how was it? We had 4 plazas, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, but maybe 2 like functioning ones.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Like because the Bay never came into existence, and Mellow there came the
No.
Triangle. So we had
Yeah.
we had planned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then basically happened 2.5.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's so
Yeah.
funny because it's like a top-down thing. We were just kind of like, oh, let's put a plaza here, and this makes sense on the map there, and that's like
Yeah.
because we're
Yeah.
also making the fire road, so we're like, okay, we're gonna plan this, and then people
Yeah.
gotta go in. But that didn't work. But then when we had pre-placement last year, then people just suddenly proposing plazas. They were like, this
Yeah.
is our plaza, and we're gonna call it that, and then they made it. And they
Yes.
were of
Yeah.
course different, but
Yeah.
still they
Yeah.
were like there, and like they happened.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. 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 And this year, what we're trying to do to take it one step further again is to introduce shepherds for each area. So they can actually talk to the camps and nudge them to like become good neighbors, but also align their like or like position their camps and their tents in a certain way that it feels like cohesive, and have a contact person, but also maybe start to like think about themes and like whatnot. Maybe start to think about like what is safety in our area, or how does that look like, or what kind of shared activities can we do. So that's what we are going to try out this year. Yeah.
Cool. Exciting.
Yeah. I hope it will catch on.
Yeah. So about the kind of process, I'm still like there with like implementing this decision. So we kind of like came up with pre-placement, we implemented it, like there was a little bit of resistance at the beginning, but then we kind of like figured it out, and then people were very enthusiastic, and then now it's like continuing. And so a lot of this is like so interesting to see like that when you initiate something in decentralization, like often like people will feel it as a threat maybe initially. At least that was my experience, that there's the first instinct is kind of like no, like there's a new thing coming. But then like if you're actually like then taking it on, you're continuing, and you're like reframing and rephrasing it and improving it, you know, like it becomes like that the actual work is more facilitation. And like anyway, what helps is like more of a stewardship, you know, like you said, you have the stewards now, you know, like, and so like what we're doing with, or what we did with the realities, with the placement reality, was like during pre-placement, like also stewarding people, like almost, yeah, you call them shepherds, you know, but like
Yes, they can be used interchangeably.
exactly, like
What makes me curious, what do you think where this like no comes from? What is behind that?
this is just my personal experience, right? That
Yeah.
when I got to know, it was mainly around kind of like um, that it's overwhelming, but then it's something that it feels like there's a lot of like energy needed in order to like engage with it, and so like the fast instinct is just to shut it down,
Mm.
right? So that's the kind of thing that people like get into, like they get maybe a bit emotional, they get like triggered almost, you know, and then something comes up and they're like, okay, there's this somebody's coming and they're like proposing something which I don't fully understand, but it feels kind of threatening. So they're picking out the parts that are kind of that sound a bit more like, okay, this person's maybe trying to do something top down or trying to like control other people and so on, right? And then it's like, okay, but I keep like approaching it with the kind of like idea of like, okay, how can I make this better? How can I fix this system? How can I fix this structure? You know, like it then when I get feedback, any feedback, then I'm just like, okay, I'm hearing here that it's maybe too complex. How can I make it more simple or more straightforward? You know, how can I explain it better? How can I explain it in a shorter way?
Mm.
Right?
But
And
I would also say, and this is maybe almost like opposite of what you're saying, is that it feels really scary to leave so much up to people and not up to the organization. It's like, where is this going to be? Well, we don't know. It depends on the people that participate in the process, what kind of co-created decision they land at. And for some people, that feels very scary, or hard to imagine. Like, but how is it going to look, or where's it going to be? And it's like, well, that's not up to us. Like, we just leave that. We design the process, and people will be filling in all the details. And but through that, like, a lot of ownership emerges in the process. It's like, well, I was part of making this decision, so I feel really invested in it to care about it. And then you see that people start to take care of like small details and each other and the end, like the final like situation. But it needs a little bit of convincing for people that are quite like, yeah, scared to let go of control, maybe, or just laying the trust in other people and laying the trust in the process.
yeah, it's not easy getting used to this way of organizing. Like it takes a while also because there's so much of like old, I want to say conditioning, like kind of things that I've learned and that are kind of like second nature. Like I've learned them in school. There's just like how reality works. And then I need to like suddenly confront myself with the fact that maybe this is not actually how reality works, right? And and then I need to unpack all of that and my behavior around that. So that's a lot of like effort also
Yeah,
that
yeah,
is included in that. And so like joining any of these kind of like decentralized ways of organizing, then you always have this friction at the beginning, you know, like how do you welcome people into this life when there's a lot of things that are just very confusing. And like my first year at Borderland, for example, I was just constantly super anxious and having social anxiety the whole time. Like that was not a fun week. Right? But I was fascinated. My mind was blown. I was just like, what's happening here? I need to understand this.
yeah. It's hard to like wrap your head around, and
Yeah,
I think that like causes a lot of anxiety. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
In
But
urban planning, that this like tension is talked about as top-down planning versus bottom-up planning, and in the case of urban planning, often the municipality or like the bureaucratic organization is so big and slow that it is actually really hard to get like true like citizen engagement happening. And so the trick is to not make too many decisions, but also the municipality is like, or like the authorities, they are there to make decisions at the same time. So that's like yeah, difficult tension. But they are seeing the value more and more in like involving citizens. Um, and so there's been like a lot of progress on creating a more bottom-up approach.
if you compare it, like you you have experienced both, right? So this is complete bottom up to a like extreme degree that
Yes.
would be very, very, like you said, very, very uncomfortable for a lot of people in a lot of scenarios, you know, like to give that much control and power and trust to unknown collective of strangers, basically.
Yeah. Like in a way, and this is also what we echoed like last year, it's not settled until people are settled physically on the ground. So okay, like this is very different from like real world urban planning. And I think that is the very exciting thing about um, doing this at like this burn, where people are very like some people get it that I can break the rules. There are no consequences. I can do exactly as I want. I will be maybe an asshole, but it's also a challenge for you to see that you can do these things, and to tell the other people that if they really want to stick to the rules, like, oh, when do we need to do this, and what happens if this other person comes first and put his tent where I'm supposed to be? It's like, well, there is no consequence. Then that's the reality we have to deal with. And I think it's very entertaining to like, yeah, kind of like insert this a little bit here and there so that people realize like, okay, like there are all these processes designed like pre-placement and this by this time you need to do that, and but then you can just show up and do whatever, and there's not going to be like if you're not a complete asshole, but like we are not trying to reshape the world that we already live in, and you're invited to like do things differently or act differently or embody, like LARP your way through the week or something. So I think that's kind of like exciting to work to like embody a little bit that in the end of, at the end, like it really doesn't matter. And we're all just there for 1 week. It's very temporary. So I would say like that is like that's like very different from like real world urban planning.
Yeah, it's like extremes, like, yeah, you have on the one side very, very bottom up and very, yeah, like you said, leaning into the playfulness, the LARPing area. Of course, sometimes people forget it and they're in the reality mode. They don't.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everything needs to be perfect and
Yeah.
so on. But then when you actually remember that, okay, it's an act, okay, it's for fun, okay, it's like, yes, I'm being very ambitious, but then also like I know that things are gonna break and fall apart, and that's also part of the fun.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that connected with the idea of like no enforcement, right? There's not like, okay, you have an agreement and then you're like enforcing that, right? There's somebody going with a measuring stick. Well, sure, but then if somebody like placed on a fire road, we'll have to move them, like, but then in
Yeah.
some cases we can move the fire road and then everybody has to go a bit to the side. And that's so funny to have this like power in a way to like create something from nothing. Like this literally just is a field, and then we're kind of planning and co-creating all these fire roads, and then we just roll them out into the field, and then there everybody builds in clusters around them. And then
Yeah.
you see the aftermath afterwards where they're flying with a drone and just showing where people have actually walked, like where there's dirt paths and everything like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you see, oh, like here people took a shortcut. Oh, nobody has actually
Yes.
placed there, even though it was such a like hot
Yeah.
commodity at the beginning, and then nothing
Yeah.
happened there actually. So you can like make all these conclusions just from a very organic kind of like fingerprint almost of the or handprint of the event itself. Yeah. And that's kind of
Or
fascinating. This
even for
trust.
us,
Go ahead.
like if we would lay out the fire roads slightly different or completely different, they would just have to deal with that. And there wouldn't be any consequence. Like really. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
They
people
would
did get
kind of
upset
like
for us
have to go.
moving them around and things like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it was even fun that when we showed up last time, that we heard, or at least I wasn't aware of, that there was this one camp that was completely off in the woods and not where they were like planning to be. And even we didn't know about that. And they managed to get some power and toilets there, and it was a surprise for everyone. And it's really nice to see these surprises happen, even for us as a placement team. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's just this moment, when people like, and also like us, over me as like when I was the lead, like co-lead of placement, like that it's easy, like even though my intentions are like really like to support people and to facilitate and to like help make this process better and more understandable, like for some people they still see me like automatically as a dictator because I have a role, like I have a title. I'm a co-lead of.
You have the GPS stick.
I have the
That
GPS
is,
stick. Yeah,
that
that's
attributes
a
a lot of power and
big one.
authority.
But then you can play with it also, and I love this that there people also have this sense of like, okay, how can we subvert this expectation, this automatic expectation of
Mm,
power, like in a playful way, right? That it's like suddenly like, oh well, we're using it in order to like, oh, let's collect some bribes in order to get like favors in the placement process, when it was like setting up all the sticks, and it's like people just ask me ridiculous questions and then I answer in a ridiculous way, like, and I'm just like, yes,
yeah,
we can make this work, but like, do you like, and just like
yeah,
actually taking not only the power thing but then also like the shadow part of that power use from the real world, like, and use it in this like durational performance of the Borderland, right?
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I think it works the opposite way as well. That we there was this huge piece of land that we weren't supposed to step on because we have this contract with the farmers and they would be using it. But of course, there is like the temptation to cross it to the other side of the area because there are other things happening. So people started to walk there, and that doesn't have a lot of consequence either. But then we followed. There naturally forms like a majority that walks on the same road, and then we followed that like majority as the as some form of like power and authority to create a road where they were already walking, and that kind of like justified for people to walk there. But also we use that as like now we're actually also like limiting to where you can walk. And I think that was a really nice process to have them like have the majority of the people lead the way to then follow with like yeah, like the road that we allowed them to walk in basically.
Mm. Yeah, and that's so nice to see also that this uh, when there's a bit more persistence, like, and patience, like that things can actually change, right? That it's like maybe you don't need to like have a shitstorm, you don't need to have like a big emotional outburst, but if you like continuously like suggest things or improve things or change things, then actually change happens, and that's so cool to see, like in the physical, like then
Yeah, yeah,
there, yeah, you see like, oh yeah, actually no, people are using this path, but they created it, and it's like a bit wonky and funny, like, and then it's
yeah,
like suddenly like you understand why people walk there, like because you understand it not from like a map top down perspective, which is
yeah,
also
yeah,
like a problem if people like use that to place their camps and they don't actually think about what it's like to be in the land, on the land.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
whole totally different translation. And then we're taking the feedback from the previous years, like, and then using it back into the design for the next years. It's always getting more. There's this interaction and exchange that I found also like fascinating, like that every year we would just look at the aftermath and then like use that as a inspiration to draw the fire roads for next year. So what had emerged there and how things have
Yes, yeah.
shifted. Yeah.
And to explain this lingo, Borderland lingo, aftermath, it means we send a drone around and collect pictures of how the area is being used by grass that has been like stepped on, that shows up as like darker, whereas like the grass that where nothing happened was lighter or something. So we can follow people's like movement basically. Yeah. And some things are just very human, like people take the shortest cut or people cross where they find it natural to cross and so on. Yeah.
So I wonder, like, if you, I'm curious, like, also, like, if you want to paint a little bit the picture between this design principle of like looking where and with whom people kind of like place together, like, okay, that we, what we did with pre-placement now. So like, okay, you can, you first choose the people you want to be with and the camps you want to be close by with, and then you co-create an area and you choose an area together with them, right? How that would, because that's a, for me, like a radically different way of like designing kind of like anything, but in this case, like a village, like temporary, like village structure. And then think about city planning, you know, where you're like really talking about so many interests and so many crisscrossing, like things like infrastructure and I don't know what, you're like creating like semi-permanent things, and it costs a lot of money and so on. So then it's like, okay, and then humans that are moving there, they're also like temporary. So I'm like curious, like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, if there's something that you took already from this, because now it's been a year, I guess, since we did it, a little bit less. So
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
if this kind of
Yeah.
like has somehow like boiled down for you, like into something that you wanted to share.
Oh, what showed up last year, and this is just how the world works, I think. Like there's property value in the most um, like logical places. The most central that has the best communication with the best view and the best options. And this is what you see in cities, but this is also what you see at the borderland. People want to be in the spot where most people pass by, or for certain camps, where people pass by, where you're close to the toilet, where you like all these like things that are of value, closest to like the water source, but also closest to and having the best view and maybe getting the shade in the morning so you can sleep better. And so this is reproduced at the borderland. And I think what was really interesting in the first meeting that we had, people come in with the expectation, now we're going to look at the map and I'm going to be able to, I know it's not supposed to be first come, first serve, people know. But there is this natural like temptation to like and drive to still secure the spot that is best for me and my camp. And what we did to challenge that attitude was to design a workshop where there was no map at all. And they had to find each other based on ideas and brainstorm and see if they want to be active at night or have like acoustic or have like electronic music or like a kind of like a circus atmosphere or like a very like spa and wellness things. And that's how, and there was a certain level of frustration of people just like feeling very also disoriented, not having a map to navigate and having to, yes, as you said, like first meet each other instead of orienting themselves on a map. And as we are now planning again, like pre-placement to happen, I'm very like I'm excited to do this again. But now that placement is, I see a lot of camps like signing up because they know that they will have some kind of like step ahead if you join pre-placement. So you invest your time, you commit, but then you really get like the best spots, hopefully, or something. And the trick is to like almost like delayer this and bring it back to, it's like, no, we are co-creating like the map together. This is not about your individual placement. So I think the individuality like is recurring, like whether it is like in like traditional city planning or it's like doing this at the Borderland.
Yeah. So basically, you're talking about this competition, the sense of competition, the sense of,
Yeah.
okay, I need to get ahead.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I have to like fight for my. That's like the first assumption that you get into it, and then you're like greeted with something that is like a bit more like kumbaya, you know, like, okay, we're gonna figure things out, and it's like, no, but
Yeah.
I want to compete, I want to win, I want to win. You say like, you're
Yeah.
like in a way you can also like, that's the interesting to like use that energy and that excitement and then redirect it, you know, because
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with people like wanting to like put the energy into getting a good deal for themselves, you know, like and getting something
Yeah.
that they're happy with, you know, like, but it's limited in the way that they're like thinking that what's going to make them happy
Yeah.
is getting the best real
Yeah.
estate, the prime, the best whatever,
Yeah.
you know, that's.
Yeah.
But what we actually see when you look at the like, especially like what people like talk about after the event, you know, like they're like, oh, this cab has been loud, I didn't agree with my neighbors, this didn't happen. So like there's all this like feedback which is about neighbors, which is about like
Yeah.
what's happening coming from other people like around you, and it's not so much about the real estate, the land, because that doesn't matter that much. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, you're gonna have more
Yeah.
sun there or less sun there, it's gonna be a bit hotter there or not so much, you know, like, oh,
Yeah.
so yeah.
But it would almost be funny to like add like like a game element to this process. You know, when you play this game at Christmas where you get your present through like rolling a dice, and you feel and you think that this is really the best present, so you grab it and you want to hold on to it. But then there are rules built into the game that if you throw a 3, for instance, you need to like hand it over to the person next to you. And it would be funny to like design this process if like, okay, you go and fight for your best place, and once you have it,
You have to
then
give it
the
to
rule,
someone else.
you have to give it to someone else, or you have to represent a camp that's not yours, and then see if you would like also land in the same location or something. But these would all be like kind of like experimentations that we would like to do if there was like time for it. Maybe one day. Yeah. But it would be really funny if the whole like map would be like moved around very randomly, and people would realize it really doesn't matter because it's just about like your neighbors. Like, are we good neighbors to each other?
Yeah, and it's also like a lot about trust, no, like it's about, because all of this like way of organizing, especially like you don't, even you don't know most people like at the event, there's still like some, of course, with a lot of asterisks and exceptions, but it's a different like feeling, like going around in Borderland than going around in some random village or city somewhere, right? It's like there's different expectations, there are different things you can expect or not expect, or like a certain kind of like, yeah, uh, and so like that you can just go to some random camp and you can like talk to someone and have a conversation with someone, and people are not going to be like, hey, why are you on my property here? But they're actually going to be
Yeah.
like, okay, take you at face value and like how you're showing up with them, or depending how their day
Yes.
was, you know.
Yeah. And it's like a complete surprise, like what the vibe is, what they're offering, or like what what the camp is about.
Yeah.
Like you can read something like maybe to explain it, but like it sometimes it comes together like the week before. So they don't even know what it's going to be about. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I love about this, like the work that we did together is just like to get people like a little bit more into this like open, playful mindset, but also like awareness of like, yeah, not only who is your neighbor, but like, oh, there's so much potential when you actually co-create your space with awareness of your neighbors and together with your neighbors if it works, you know, like not everybody's gonna have the
Yeah.
best time, but like some people are gonna find themselves and suddenly they're gonna merge camps, you know, like it's not like I'm sure
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
happened, you know, like there's over 100 participants last year, you know, like so a lot of people
Yeah. No, for
found
sure. Yeah.
themselves, you know, but just opening up the perspective and being like kind of okay, there's a lot more potential and what else happens, right? So now you have basically, at least what I've heard is that the offerings were much more like better designed in a way that you could keep walking and there was not like these dead spots where there was nothing happening, but there was always like a little bit something, 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 then a plaza, then again some offering, so you could just like walk around in this maze of an event and then always like find something going on somewhere surprising, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. 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 But also have these nodes in your like mental map of like, here's a plaza that I can go to, and if that isn't anything, then I have in mind where the next node is, and to go there and check out that. And if like the high activities are uh, concentrated around these nodes, then those become like fun places to go to.
Yeah.
And then hopefully that's what I would really like to see more of is like surprises and small pop-ups, and not like the foreseeability of like, I know I can go there and get this. That's
Yeah.
how it starts to become, and that's a bit boring. And that's also what I hope that, yeah, to bring more into this placement process to like, we don't have to predict and foresee what's going to happen. Like, or you don't have to be in the same location all the time. You can create like a mobile version of your camp and be out in the forest, and people will find you. And I hope that that realization starts to land more, instead of we need to be here because we need to be where people are. It's like, no, people would like to find you. But yeah, that is maybe another layer, another addition.
Yeah.
Sure, if that's, if you can implement something like that, that's also something that people should um, realize.
Yeah. Well, it's great that you're continuing. Is there anything else that you want to bring up or that you want to share from the process or from next year, that what you've got planned
Um,
or
I
how it
was there
was?
actually. I was there this weekend at the land, and we realized actually how far south our property goes, and how that's never been like appropriated by anyone. That someone, people have been very respectful on the one hand towards like the land and the boundaries, but also very brave and behaved. Like there's so far has only been one camp that went kind of like outside of like the property lines, um, and they knew what they were doing and so on. But it would be really cool to see a little bit more of uh, this like type of behavior of like, we're just going to create something like with lights in the forest or like on the other side of the field, and let's see what happens. To like be more experimental with the land, that would be super fun. So I think people are very behaved still.
You see all the different visions already in your head. Is you're very plugged in.
Yeah, yeah,
Nice.
yeah, yeah.
I'm very excited to see how it's going to turn out. Yeah,
Yes, yeah, always a surprise. Yeah,
thanks.
yeah, great. Really nice to talk about this with you.
Cool. Do you have some website or something you want to share where people can find you or reach out if they want to learn more or get in touch about your work?
Instagram, streets.stockholm. That's where I share sometimes stuff that I'm doing, and my intention is to share more.
Cool. Great. I'll add that to the to the video description as well. If you send me the
Yes.
link, and yeah.
And of course, if people are interested, check out the Borderland.
Yeah, I'm gonna add the link to the lottery because that's basically the idea here that oh, there's no lottery this year, but there's a flash sale, so
Yeah,
you can get still a membership for this year. And there's also pre-placement happening that starts on
yes.
10th of
9th
March,
of April.
9th of April. Okay, got the date
Yeah.
wrong. So that's gonna be
It got
exciting.
moved. So, yes,
9th of April.
excited, yes.
Yeah, and my things, I'm Zoe, and you can find more about me on my YouTube channel, mainly on my Instagram, which I'm going to link also below. And it was really nice chatting with you and reminiscing on this amazing times we had. I don't know, this was such a cool process, just like getting to work with you and someone with your background and your experience, and also like with your excitement and curiosity and this kind of like way of, oh yeah, let's try this. Oh, we're gonna name all the little neighborhoods and we're gonna give them like quirky names and sit for an hour and just come up with like these different things that you were always like, even though it might sound like a weird idea, if I kind of like come up with this thing, you were always game and be like, oh yeah, let's try this. Oh, let's do that. And that was really nice that we got to like play together and experiment together and then see also the results of this like madness and keep going and yeah, thank you so much for the trust and the learning from you. Yeah.
Or like, I think the three of us and like the work that we did together was very much based on like, let's put more trust in people. It's going to make them uncomfortable, but this is what we're going to enforce. And that was super fun to work with, to like challenge ourselves in that process of like, are we able to like, can we let go of this and put this into, back to like in a decentralized way, like back to people that are part of this process. And I think we're both like quite brave in doing that. So it was really fun to work with you.
Yeah. Great. Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording now.
Bye.
Bye bye.